Alright, today we are here on the public test server for patch 8.0 Space Marine 2 to talk about the new prestige perks in the game, really just for Sniper, Heavy, Bulwark, and Assault. But overall, these perks are what we call trash in the space, but I'm going to go over the worst one here first, which is Hone Precision on the Heavy. Equipped weapons maximum spread decreases by 25% when firing without aiming. Now, this is kind of a counterintuitive perk for the Heavy class especially, because his three primaries, or his best three primaries, with the Heavy Bolter, Plasma Incinerator, and Multi-Melta, they all benefit from being in Heavy stance thanks to perks like Heavy Immunity, which is, while in Heavy stance, you do not lose control upon taking heavy hits, on top of things like better charge speed while in Heavy stance, or for the Heavy Bolter, you also have the same perk here with Heavy Immunity and things like bonus damage while you're in Heavy stance, which means they do not benefit pretty much at all from this Prestige perk here. And even with the Heavy Bolter, or I should say the Heavy Bolt Rifle, this gun is really not necessary to hip fire whatsoever. It has really good accuracy if you just aim down the sights, and also the control scheme for this game forces you to gun strike if you try to hip fire while one is active. So this perk physically cannot activate 24/7 without forcing you to a gun strike, and that's pretty trash. And it's not too bad on weapons where it's like a secondary option, but for an entire prestige perk, this is garbage. I would say it's like a worse change than even the restorative capacity, which is what it was previously, which would remove the status effects upon using the Iron Halo. Even that was better than this. I don't know who made this perk. This perk is pretty garbage, pretty trash. I just changed this entirely again. Unless you go back to the drawing board on this one, it's just bad. Now, for the Sniper, we have one that's slightly better, which is Material Upgrade. Equipment damage radius increases by 15%. So this is pretty decent, especially since we have Pattern of Excellence, which is performing 3 consecutive headshots, restores equipment charge by 1. Cooldown is 30 seconds. We get bombs back on this class faster than any of them. This one makes your Melt-A-Bombs better, it makes your shock grenades better, it even makes your frags better, though it doesn't really do anything for crack grenades, because crack grenade AoE is pretty garbage to begin with, and a 15% increase to that pretty much does nothing. But overall, pretty decent. I don't think it's really better than just taking the classic setup of Emperor's Grace, Versatile Precision, Indomitable Spirit, and Conviction. But if you want to take this over something else, you definitely can. I've tried it before. I kind of like it, especially on the Melt-A-Bombs. Overall, not too bad. Now, next we have Assault, which I'm going to skip over the Bulwark real quick. But Assault has a pretty interesting one here with Unyielding Oath, which is the replacement of Boosted Recharge. When charging a ground pound, you become invulnerable for 3 seconds. This is pretty much only useful against things like Devourers and the Soul Cannons, but those guys would shoot you out of the sky before. Unfortunately, I have noticed while using this perk is kind of bugged. Sometimes you go up in the air and start charging your ground pound, and you just get shot anyways, and this will also not save you from like having 0 chip damage on your contested health. Sometimes it feels more like a 99% damage reduction. I don't know if that's a bug, maybe it's just a visual bug, that's just my experience with it, but I think it's like, it could be decent. It's just not as good as you would expect it to be, and I haven't played this too much against Chaos, but the times I have, it hasn't really saved me a whole lot. Though, when it does work, it's okay. Now, the next one we have here is on the Bulwark, which is the Standard Bearer. When the, excuse me, not Standard Banner, Emboldened Stand. When the Chapter Banner is active, all squad members do not lose control upon taking heavy hits and cannot be knocked back within its zone. This would be pretty good if it weren't for the fact that your banner isn't up that often in this game, and no knockback is really good, but pretty much every class in this game already has knockback resist if they're built properly, and like relying upon your Bulwark to save you with no knockback in a zone that you're already getting armor, I don't think that's that good. And really, I don't know who's designing some of these prestige perks, because the best ones before this update are still the best ones now, and maybe I'll make a video giving some suggestions on these at some point, but for now I think you should just avoid this one. It's not remotely as good as any of these other ones, especially on Bulwark. Same thing for Assault, where Assault has a lot of good ones, or I should say he has a few good ones with Adrenaline Boost, Duelist, even Fortitude. Fortitude, must have. Adrenaline Boost, must have. Practice Aim, increased range damage, must have. Even Scramble Targeting, I think is better than Yielding Oath versus Chaos, and I just don't know what the point of some of these perks are. But if you guys have some different opinions on these perks, let me know in the comments below, and honestly, if you guys have any suggestions for perks, I would love to go over those in some video in the future, because primarily in this game, some of the perk choices make 0 sense at all, or I should say the perk designs, because some of them just outclass each other. Like Wings of Flame, Jetpack build right now, that is the meta on this class, and there's really no other other point, or there's no point to take things like maneuverability unless you're just trying to goof around. But that is pretty much all I have to say in this one. There aren't a ton of new perks. Maybe they'll change some of these before the actual official patch 8 comes around. But if you guys have any suggestions for the new perks here, I would love to read them in the comments below and maybe make a video about them at some point. So if you have some thoughts, leave them below. And I want to say thank you guys all for watching. As always, your support means a ton, especially to my channel members. You guys are the goats. And as always, take it easy, guys. Peace.